Hello everybody, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about how you can maximize your score in the Crystal of Sacred Altar, so that way you can be doing the maximum damage or the much damage as possible for this event, so you can get the highest score, what's not. Just in case you're interested, I'm going to be talking about what I would do, what I would equip, the monsters. I'm going to be talking about all that funky jazz. I'm going to be covering every section of how to increase your score as much as possible for one mission, and you can kind of take it from me. I'm in the top 300 rankings right now as an archer, and archer is a pretty dang used class under the soldier and lancer, because soldiers and lancers are the most used class. Maybe rooks, maybe mages, but archers are also a very commonly used class. So there's a lot of people out there that use archers. So for a rank 261, that's not exactly bad. I'm expecting it to go up to like 300 something near the end. But if I can manage to get my guild together, that is, I should still stay in the top 200s, nearly 300s or whatsoever, and something like that. Anyways, let's actually get on to the video. Okay, so 3 common rules you need to know about the Crystal Sacred Altar. First one is there's only 3 things that affect your score: your abilities that do damage, your Unison attack, and the Great Spirit Unison attack. At the very end, when it does like the combo, because you have like the paired Unison elements and what's not, those are the only 3 things that like actually affect your score whatsoever. So pretty much what I'm trying to say is, mainly you are the score itself. It doesn't matter what anybody's gear score, attack, or any of that is. You make the score yourself. Your attacks, your Unison, and that Great Spirit are the things that make your score. Now, what can happen is people can help with that using buffs and debuffs. They're not going to attack. Their attacks do not count towards your score whatsoever. So their gear score does not matter under any circumstance or any of that stuff. Nada. Zero. The next thing is there's elemental advantage for each and every one. I'll talk about that in the video. I'm not going to really put a link below because it's not going to be needed, because we're only going to be talking about attack, and I'm going to be talking about it briefly, so that's not needed. And the second thing is the crystal does not attack. It's not attack, so you can ignore defenses like completely. The crystal does no damage to you, so you're not in any harm by losing as much defense as possible for attack. Okay, so moving on from there. Yes, like I said, people, like, their attacks do not affect your score whatsoever. Your attacks do. So the gear score does not matter. Their stats do not matter whatsoever towards your score, but they can help increase your score by things like buffs and debuffs. By far, by default, the best base classes, I'm talking by base like without monster, best debuff buff helpers. First one is Lancer. All hands down is Lancer. If you get 2 Lancers, you are golden, my friend. You are golden. You have 2 Lancers to help you. Amazing stuff right there. They have an ability called, I'll show you right here in a second. I have it right here on my Lancer. Let's see if I can find it. Dragon's Night Cry. This is to start off with. So pretty much what it does is increases the ability power damage taken by all enemies by 20 for 40 seconds. So that's a debuff to the enemy side. In other words, the crystal. So you get that field debuff. There's not a lot of monsters that can do that either. The only one I can think of that could do that as a wind is Keyroit. So if you ain't got a Keyroit, you definitely want a Lancer to maximize that DPS. So that's the first thing the Lancer can do. The second thing is I have this lance called Xmas Gift. So they do have side abilities that can decrease stats as well. Because what it does is it decreases the defense of the enemy by 10% for like 30 seconds or something like that. So they do have side moves that do debuffs on top of it. The next thing would be they have Break. Break goes through, I'm not sure if it ignores a certain percentage of defense and magic defense. So that's the next thing that Lancers do. And just overall, they have, like, they're multi-support. So it is amazing what they can do as support. The next one is Archers. Archers mainly because they do the opposite of Lancer with their Ether Exchange. They increase the physical and magical ability power of all allies by 20 for 40 seconds. So instead, they do that instead, and that's why they are also very helpful. So definitely get you some Archers and Lancers, especially Lancers, in your lobby, and they're based by default. just the base. They are very good support classes. Okay, so the next one is the monster. They're going to be looking at the monster in your main slot. So if you got a good support monster, which I'll talk about near the end of this video, it'll be the last part, you will be kicked. You definitely want to show that you have a win monster, and you want to show your best win monster possible. And I'll talk about what you really want to show and what you don't want to show as your main. Okay, so the next thing is, like I said, you don't have to worry about defenses. So what you want to do is sacrifice your armor slots for your monster slots, max out your monster slots, max out your weapon slots, and decrease your armor slots. You want to be doing as much damage as possible. Defenses are not needed whatsoever. And from there, you want to be throwing in as much offensive skilled armors as possible. See right here, I have damage up as a headpiece for an armor. That's going to help out as well. I got Ra's Blessing right here, chance to greatly increase magic damage, chance to greatly increase physical damage. I got Dante's Blessing right here. These right here are going to help increase your DPS even further. I'm an archer, so either way it's going to help, whether it's physical or magical. I got Fatals right here. Definitely want to throw those in your main slot if you have them. Fatals are probably the nastiest buff you could throw in your main slot, so definitely get Fatals, throw them in your main slot, because if you throw them in your main slot, you're going to be doing significantly higher damage. They're like a 50 ability power buff. Now, they only stack once because technically they count as a critical hit, but they're a 50 ability power buff. So if you definitely have Fatals, I stacked as many Fatals in my main slot as possible. I got a bow, I got 2 armors, and I'm raring to go. I'm ready to rock. So definitely, if you got those, definitely want to throw those in. Okay, so the next thing is your stats and what you should really worry about when it comes to elemental. Okay, so you want to keep a balance between your elemental and your attack and magic attack. Because if you have too low of attack and magic attack, high elemental won't matter. It won't. It seriously won't. Like, nobody's gonna give a crap. Here's an example. If you have watched my old video, you already know. But just in case you haven't, each stack of elemental attack counts as 5% towards your attack and magic attack. So, one elemental stack counts as 5%. It's an extra 5% towards my attack and magic attack. Now, I said percents. It's not a flat buff, it's a percentage buff. So it's going to be based on the flat buff that it's being applied to, hence being your attack and magic attack, right? Also, when it comes to elements, they only work for the element they are strong against. If you don't know what that is, it's like right here. So the crystal's water. Its elemental advantage is wind. We're pretty much only going to be talking about wind. So here's an example of a balance between elemental attack and stats. Okay, so let's say, for example, I'm an archer. I have 200k as an archer. What I can do also is have 20 elemental attack, but I have to give up 100 of that 200k. So I could go from 200k to 100k but it's going to, like, I could get 20 elemental attack, right? On my my lancer. I could get 20 elemental attack on my lancer, but it's going to take away 100k. I'm going to go from 200k to 100k in exchange. Would that be worth it? It doesn't matter either way. Actually, just to, like, so people can view you quickly. Some people might view you quickly, give a good look at you, and then decide whether he's worth it or not, because some people may not just have the time to actually stare at your character and look and think and observe whether it's worth it or not. I'd honestly just stick with the base stats, because it's literally the same thing. One stack of elemental is 5%, so if you do 10 elemental attack, that's a 50% buff. If you do 20 elemental attack, that's 100% buff. So pretty much 100% of 100k is 200k. You're literally getting the same amount if you just left with no elemental. Like, if you left your elemental attack alone, you're getting the same amount regardless, so it doesn't matter. You need to have a good balance between your elemental attack and your attack and magic attack. You don't want to just lean on one completely. If you need to, that's fine, but you want to have a decent balance between them. Don't just completely lean on one. Think about whether you could throw a couple elemental attack in as a high gear score, or you could throw in a lot of elemental attack as a decent gear score. What's not, you need to have a balance. That's pretty much what I'm getting at. I hope that you understand that completely. Okay, next step is the monsters. You definitely by far, all hands down, if you're looking to get pretty high gear score, you want to have at least decent helping monsters to help you get to that point, to support other people and have other people support you and what's not, and pretty much increase your score and join higher class and higher ranking lobbies and what's not. And I have kind of a guide, kind of a helping list to help you with that, so it's in my pictures, so I will be right back and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so we are here. I actually went through the regular wiki database within Unison League to find all these monsters and to see what's really going to help, and I know the circumstances and what's so not. Okay, so here's the 4 buffs that you really want to work on and that everybody that is up there is expecting to really happen during their match in Crystal Assault to really maximize their DPS. First one is Ariel, Archangel Ariel's field buff. That's the first buff they all expect. So there's gotta be one, and there really only needs to be one, but there's gotta be one Ariel Archangel. The second one is reducibility cooldown times. The next one is cost recovery speed. You will run out of cost quick as possible. People are gonna want cost recovery speed to help, like, they're going to be using moves back and forth. You're going to be using moves back and forth as well, so you're going to need high cost recovery speed. You're also going to need reducibility cooldown times, because sometimes your abilities take too long to recover, so you're going to need that as well. And you're going to want to have high elemental attack. You could there's like an in-game buff where you're actually like playing in the mission that increases your elemental attack. So those are the 4 things: Ariel's field buff, elemental attack, cost recovery, and reducibility cooldown times. Now, I know some of you might be like, Azaraf, what about the regular magic attack and attack buff? Isn't that going to be useful? What about the ability power buff? Isn't that going to be useful? First, for the ability power buff, that's what Lancers and Archers are for. Lancers can increase the amount of how much ability power they actually take. And then Archers can increase your ability power for your moves. So that's what Lancers and Archers are for. They already have that for their Ether Exchange. The second you start playing the mission, a Lancer and Archer can do that. You don't need a monster for that whatsoever. You don't. If you have Lancers and Archers, they can do that instead. You're good for that. As for the magic attack and attack buff, you don't need to worry about that. The Great Spirit Unison does that. So if you have it maxed out, like if everybody has Wind Unison, it doesn't matter what they throw, if they have Wind Unison, after they're done using the Wind Unison, if you manage to max out the Great Spirit, which in almost any case in Crystal Assault you should, unless somebody has like the wrong set and they don't have a wind monster on them, you should get that 80% magic attack and attack buff instantly. Like, you don't need monsters for that. The Great Spirit Wind Unison does that itself, so you ain't gotta worry about that. Okay, so let's get back to it. Here is literally the best setup you can use when it comes to monsters in Unison League. I have multiple monsters in here as alternatives because I know everybody's not gonna have these monsters. But to start off with, if you're maximizing DPS under any circumstance, you're going to want Archangel Ariel. Somebody in your team has to have Archangel Ariel. Archangel Ariel has a field buff itself that is a standalone buff. So all those regular buffs you're getting, like, you know when you look at your character and then you see like this little bubble next to it that has like a number and like symbols? Those are the buffs. Those are the regular buffs. The field buff is a standalone buff, so if you're really looking to maximize your DPS, you're going to need an Archangel Ariel on the field. You will need an Archangel Ariel on the field. And don't worry, for all you hero casters that are casting hero, you will be getting the base elemental buff as well. So you will be getting that increased elemental attack of all elements by all allies by 6 for 6, well, 120 seconds that is. I almost said 60 seconds. So you're going to need Archangel Ariel to start off with. Okay, so like said, there's your Ariel buff. Okay, so the next one would be reducibility cooldown times. Now, it doesn't matter if you use Athena Windgrace or IS Wallstein. It does not matter whatsoever. Their other buffs does not matter. The only thing that they're really useful for is the reducibility cooldown times. And if you awaken her, to the second level, you get that 30% reduced ability cooldown times, and if you max out Athena's skill level, you also get the same effect. So it really doesn't matter whether you use Athena or IS. Those are the only two I can think of that are win monsters, so out of those, you gotta use one out of those two if you're really looking to maximize your DPS. Okay, so from here, this is really all by vary. This is the best I'm about to tell you, but if you don't have the best, you can alternate, because I'm not expecting people to have these two monsters. These two monsters are event monsters, and they were only out for a short time. Same for IS. Athena, on the other hand, she's a bit harder to obtain. She's still obtainable to this day. Even at the second that I make this video and you're actually watching it, on top of it, she's still obtainable. But these two right here are strictly and exclusively event monsters that have only been out for a second, and one of them's even a monster you would probably have to whale for. So I do have alternatives, but people are going to be looking for this if they're really looking to maximize your DPS, because if you don't have these monsters, you will not get the best 100% maximized DPS you could get within this game. Okay, so they're looking for Takeover Lysana Strauss. Reason for that being is that cost recovery speed, and it fills in the elemental base attack buff that you get from Archangel Ariel. The highest it could go up to is 10. The field buff can bring it to 14 that Ariel gives, but the highest it could go up to standalone is 10. And pretty much what this monster does is both have increased cost recovery speed and fills that in. So it's a 2-in-1. It's a multitasker. That's why people are going to be looking for Lysana Strauss and Academy Idol Uno at its third awakening. Because what it does is it debuffs. It debuffs, I forgot to say or mention debuffs at all. Debuffs is also something they're going to be looking for. So that field buff, Ariel has cost recovery speed, reduced ability cooldown time, elemental, and elemental buff, that is, and then a regular debuff for the crystal. What Uno does is, again, he increases the cost recovery speed. Again, the Lysana Strauss one will not last for the whole match, just keep that in mind. Even after you pop Unison, you're probably going to have somewhere between a minute to 50 seconds left, so you're not going to have that for the whole time. Uno keeps that around and keeps double what Lysana does, so you have 2 cost recovery speeds. He's possibly going to stay there for the whole match, not definitely, and he debuffs the crystal so you could really increase your DPS. So right there, that's the best monster set you can use. Ariel, Lysana Strauss, Academy Idol Uno, and then one of these two. But that's only 4 monsters, so what am I going to do about the 5th person, Azrath? Well, you could also add another field debuffer. As an alternative, you could use Gigante Sacred Ground or Kirot Gotta Brush. You don't need another cost recovery speed. You could only buff your cost recovery speed up twice, so that's kind of useless. So any really, to be honest, field debuffer will do, so that way they have 80% decrease in defense and magic defense. And let me tell you, you have reduced ability cooldown times, cost recovery speed double, 80% defense and magic defense. You have the field buff, elemental attack is 14. You have the 80% magic attack and attack buff. Your numbers are going to fly. Your numbers are going to fly. You're not stop attacking, and you have all the buffs you can literally have for the Crystal Assault. Your numbers are going to fly so far, it is ridiculous, especially if you already have high gear score as it is. So that's pretty much how that's going to work out. Now again, I'm not expecting really anybody to have Strauss or Academy Idol Uno. In fact, I shouldn't really expect too many people to have IS or Archangel Ariel anyways, but you do have an alternative for Athena Windcrace, and Archangel Ariel will be coming back eventually, so she's limited time, to be fairly honest, but she's not as limited time as these two right here. These two are super exclusive monsters. So as an alternative, you can use Sun Wukong, Artemis, and I can't name this monster right here. They all do have wind elemental attack buffs, so if you need a filler in for Archangel's regular elemental buff, that's what they do right there. They help fill in for that. And if you need a cost recovery speed monster, you can use Jupiter instead. But that's pretty much the best monster set you can set up to actually increase your DPS overall. You could use other monsters as well. they do help a little bit, but overall, if you're looking for like the main like things that are going to help support you to the maximum DPS as possible, like all the other stuff can be obtainable through just without these monsters. All that other stuff is obtainable without these monsters. These monsters right here have buffs, debuffs, and support DPS as exclusive as they can get. So these are really the monsters you want to be looking for when it comes to Crystal Assault. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. I hope this helped out. This is the Azrath, and I'll catch you in the next video. I'm out. Peace.